We've all been there. You come home to a half-empty fridge. So you throw a pot on the stove and proceed to dump the remnants of every half-full condiment bottle into it with whatever sad vegetables and meat scraps you can find. You take a bite straight from the pot, and it tastes amazing. As it turns out, some of the tastiest foods were born out of a similarly magical confluence of laziness, resourcefulness, and luck, or simply because someone, somewhere, screws something up. From chocolate chip cookies to beer, humans throughout history have often created foods and beverages far more delicious than anything they set out to make. So, next time you're cooking and accidentally screw up the recipe, embrace the failure and see where it takes you. Stay to see these examples of accidental tastiness. You'll see that history is on your side. Cheese puffs. Invented by the Flacol Company of Beloit, Wisconsin in 1930s. The Flacol Company invented a machine that crushed grains for animal feed without hulls and grain dust. Edward Wilson noticed that workers poured moistened corn kernels into the machine to reduce clogging. The machine got so hot that the moist cornmeal came out in puffy ribbons, hardening as it hit the air and fell to the ground. Wilson took the ribbons home, added oil and seasoning, and made the first cheese curls. Nachos. Invented by Ignacio Nacho Anaya in 1943. Ignacio Nacho Anaya was a waiter at a restaurant called the Victory Club in Piedras Negras, Mexico. One day in 1943, a group of 10 military wives crossed the border from Fort Duncan Army Base. Unable to track down the chef and faced with 10 hungry women, Anaya decided to improvise. He covered a plate of tostadas with grated cheese, passed it through a salamander, and topped the whole thing off with jalapenos. One of the women dubbed the dish Nachos Special, which was later shortened to just a Nachos. When Anaya took the dish to El Moderno restaurant, and finally opened his own place, called Nachos Restaurant. Worcestershire sauce. Invented by Lord Marcus Sandy in 1838. Upon returning to England, the former Bengal colonial governor found himself craving his favorite Indian sauce, and commissioned drugstore owners John Leah and William Perrins to recreate it based purely on his descriptions. The stench of the product they created proved to be far too offensive to sell in their store, so they stashed it in their basement for 2 years. This aging period improved the flavors vastly, and the sauce became a hit with customers. Beer. Invented by Mesopotamians about 10,000 years ago. When Mesopotamians began storing grains for bread, their storage spaces occasionally became damp, which caused the grains to ferment. This fermentation process resulted in the earliest beer. We should all raise a glass to that first Mesopotamian who was brave enough to sample the strange liquid. The sandwich. Invented by John Montagu, sometime in the 1700s. There is some debate about the invention of the sandwich. Some believe Montagu couldn't leave a particularly intense gambling game, so he requested meat between 2 pieces of bread. Others believe that work kept him at his desk for many hours, necessitating a utensil-free meal. Either way, Montagu's refusal to get up for a meal resulted in one of the greatest culinary advances in history. Tofu. Invented by the Chinese in ancient China. One origin story maintains that boiled, ground soybeans were accidentally mixed with impure sea salt containing calcium and magnesium salts, causing the soybeans to gel. Yet another Chinese legend tells of a cook accidentally dropping niggery, a natural coagulant, into a pot of soybean milk, creating a curdling effect that produced tofu. Champagne. Invented in 1490s. The bubbles in champagne were initially considered a serious problem for the Champagne region. Changes in climate starting during the 1490s caused temperatures to drop, creating a shorter growing season. The effect on fermentation was disastrous. The yeast that converted sugars to alcohol in grape juice would stop working too early and lay dormant until the following spring. When the weather warmed back up, the yeast would start a second fermentation, producing carbon dioxide in the juice. This secondary fermentation caused stoppers to push out and bottles to explode. But once these bubbles were harnessed, the results were miraculous. Ice cream cones. Invented by Ernest Hamwi in 1904. When ice cream vendor had run out of dishes, Hamwi, a neighboring concessionaire, rolled the waffle-like pastries he was selling, called salabis, into a cone so his neighbor's ice cream could be held inside. The cone became an instant hit with customers. Potato chips. Invented by chef George Crumb in 1853. A customer at Saratoga Springs, Moon Lake House, sent batch after batch of fried potatoes back to the kitchen, complaining that they were not thin enough. Chef Crumb was tired of the complaints, so he sliced the last batch of potatoes as thinly as he could, fried and salted them, and sent them out. The customer loved them, and soon the word of these crunchy fried potatoes spread across the region. Coke. Invented by John Pemberton in 1886. Pemberton was a wounded veteran who had become addicted to morphine. He sought to create a replacement to stave off his addiction. Through some experimenting in his pharmacy, he created a tonic, the original Coca-Cola formula, that contained small amounts of cocaine as well as the caffeine-rich cola nut. In 1887, another Atlanta pharmacist, Asa Candler, bought the formula for Coca-Cola from Pemberton for $2,300. By the late 1890s, Coca-Cola was one of America's most popular fountain drinks, largely due to Candler's aggressive marketing of the product as a soda. Chocolate chip cookies. Invented by Toll House Inn's Ruth Wakefield in 1930. Wakefield found she had ran out of baking chocolate one day, so she smashed up a bar of semi-sweet chocolate and added it to her batter. What resulted was a cookie studded with chunks of chocolate. Soon, her Massachusetts Inn was known for its chocolate chip cookies.